everyone. Welcome back to the Mind of Sai Marie. Today, we are looking at the roots of resilience, the power of communication, and what it truly means to bridge two worlds. My guest today has written a deeply moving, beautiful book that challenges all of us to think about how we listen, how we love, and how we show up for one another. Maria Gallucci is a multi award winning real estate professional, a passionate advocate, and a proud CODA, that is, a child of deaf adults. And her debut book is Raised in Silence Lessons on Listening, Love, and Loud Family Dinners from a Child of Deaf Adults, is a raw, humorous, and heartfelt exploration of identity, deaf culture, and the profound empathy required to connect across differences. Maria, it is an absolute honor to welcome you to the studio today. So glad to have you.
Thank you so much. I'm very excited to be here.
Okay, so you've mapped out a beautiful world in your book, and it's one that I also relate to. My mother, I grew up with a deaf mother, so I very much understand that. So this book is filled with signing households, love, and unique dynamics. What was the ultimate breaking point or moment of inspiration that made you want to dive into your personal story and share this bicultural journey with the world?
I think for me, for years, I thought my childhood was completely normal. And it wasn't until I started sharing stories with friends, clients, and audiences that I realized people were seeing something extraordinary that I had simply lived every day. So people would stop me and say, "Wait, you interpreted medical appointments as a child? You helped your parents buy a house at 12?" So I think the spark came when I realized these stories weren't just about my family. They were lessons about communication, resilience, belonging, and human connection. So I thought if sharing my experiences could help somebody better understand another person or feel less alone in their own journey, then the story for me was worth telling.
So, Raised in Silence explores how easily people can feel stuck on the outside of communities or conversations. Why do you think this universal theme of wanting a deep individual and cultural awakening around inclusion and empathy resonates so deeply with readers right now?
Think the stories are real and personal and deeply rooted in my experience growing up as a CODA. I was a child of deaf adults, but I never wanted the book to be only about the family and my family. I wanted readers to see themselves in it, whether you're navigating different cultures, generations, identity, or perspectives. I think we've all experienced moments where we needed to bridge a gap. And it's heart, and this is the book about understanding people and finding connection where differences exist.
You focus beautifully on the social and familial web of your childhood, sharing how you helped your parents buy a home, like you said, when you were just 12 years old. How do you write about navigating such massive adult responsibilities as a child without losing the warmth, humor, and joy of your family's daily life?
I think that for me, just having empathy and having people or knowing to include people in things. So I think being raised with the deaf culture made me realize that not to leave people out. So for me, I think that's what helped me navigate everything is just seeing what all my parents have gone through and everything.
So, in your book, readers are challenged to step away from comfortable passive habits and realign toward active, intentional empathy. Based on your journey, what do you think is the hardest barrier for a hearing world to break down when trying to truly understand and respect deaf culture?
I think that the barriers are that they feel like if they don't even try because they feel like they might do something wrong to it and salt them or not being able to know how to talk to them in their like language. So I think that when you're faced with a massive communication barrier or a moment of like deep discomfort, which would be in that situation, I think how do you visually or mentally summon the courage to just step into it? And for me, I think I always tell people to put yourself in their shoes. Like, how would you feel if someone did that to you and just left you? And you don't have to be perfect by any means, but if you just give an effort, it goes a long way.
So, we talk about intentional leadership on this show a lot. In your world, leadership looks like deep listening and founding platforms like the ASL Realty Network to support the overlooked. What can professionals in business, healthcare, and education learn from the quiet resilience of your parents and the deaf community?
Making them feel included, and especially leaders and people in the workspace, I feel like they get le left out a lot because they think that they can just go with the flow or they can put closed captioning. So I always say that you have to get an interpreter for them because if they don't know what the other person's saying, then number one, they feel absolutely like completely left out, and then they also don't understand it. So I think that to be more inclusive and give them accessibility to what others have that are hearing, I think that goes a long way.
The road to translating your lived truths into a cultural guide, a motivational handbook, and a business playbook is a beautiful achievement. What was the biggest level up you had to experience as an author to handle such deeply personal, intersectional themes while keeping the book completely immersive, relatable, and human?
I think when I was writing it, like, I always say, like, you'd be so surprised when you're going through, like, your childhood and all that stuff, the things that you forgot. So for me, when I was writing it, I always thought, "Oh, I forgot about that." So I think, for me, I had to kind of step outside of it because it's emotional, especially when you're going through all of your childhood and the experiences that you've gone through. So I just kinda, like, stepped I would write down all my thoughts, and then I would just compose it to where I thought would be more intriguing for the readers for it. So it's not just about the deaf and hard of hearing community, it's about everybody who wants to have a connection and just bridge the gaps between different communication styles.
So, your book deals heavily with your life motto, just try. When a person's old assumptions start to fall away and they face the discomfort of a communication gap, how does the role of the individual change from a passive bystander to an active, inclusive ally?
I always remind myself that connection doesn't require perfection, it requires effort. And some of the meaningful relationships in my life happened because someone was willing to try despite of the possibility of getting it wrong. So for growing up, I watched people navigate communication barriers every day. They didn't wait until they were just comfortable. They just like stepped forward, and that's what just try means to me. Not perfection, but progress.
So, if you could give one piece of advice to someone currently feeling isolated, misunderstood, or stuck on the outside of the community or family dynamic, what would that be?
It would be to find well, number 1, find someone that you can talk to, and I know that from personal experience, because my son is, gay, and so he felt on top of what we've already dealt with the deaf culture, he felt, very isolated and alone, and I think that try to find somebody that you have someone to talk to about it and have somebody that I think it's so important to have somebody that's in your corner to make you feel that you belong and let you be your authentic self.
So, finally, if your book were a bridge between the heavy silences of isolation and the vibrant reality of authentic connection, what is the one virtue or truth you hope people take with them across that bridge?
Think that for me, at its core, it's not well, for the book and for me, I would say that connection is worth the effort. I feel like we live in a world that often focuses on what separates us, but the magic happens when we choose to understand one another, and the danger isn't our differences, the danger is deciding those that aren't worth exploring. And so every meaningful relationship, every opportunity, and every community, I think, begins with someone who's willing to reach out and cross the gap and connect.
Maria, thank you for sharing your vision, your family's story, and your incredible heart with us today. It's been an inspiring journey into what allows communities to truly connect, understand, and thrive.
Thank you so much for having me. I feel like at its core, raising silence isn't really being about raised by deaf parents. It's about what happens when people choose connection over assumptions and empathy over judgment and understanding over division. And that's a lesson that all of us, I feel, we can use right now.
I entirely agree with that. To everyone listening, go get your hands on Raised in Silence Lessons on Listening, Love, and Loud Family Dinners from a Child of Deaf Adults by Maria Gallucci. I have a link in the show description notes to make that easy for you to find it. This is a powerful, life changing exploration of diversity, inclusion, and the ultimate power of authentic connection. And remember, the mind is the most important story that we'll ever tell. Until next time, thank you for listening to the Mind of Sai Marie.